It had nothing to do with MMA. Me leaving the Marine Corps had everything to do with my family. My first daughter was already born, and you know, it was interesting. I had a conversation with a very senior enlisted Marine who had done 20+ years, sitting in his living room, and I asked him, I said, hey, First Sergeant, you know, is that your family up there in the picture? Because his family was with him at the time. And he explained to me, he said, you know, he said, that was my ex-wife and those are my children. And we got divorced after 16 years in the Marine Corps. She just couldn't take the constant deployments and the moving around. We got divorced, and now she lives, you know, halfway across the country with my children. And, you know, in discussing with my wife the type of lifestyle we would have lived, it would have been very difficult for her. You know, moving every 3 or 4 years, you know, being in the infantry, even when I was home, I was not home. I was in the field training all the time. And I just made the conscious decision that for me, there wasn't going to be anything more important than being there with my children. And I knew I was going to have more kids, and there's nothing in my life that's more important than my family, period. As much as I love the Marine Corps, as much as I love the UFC, as much as I love, you know, running my charity, if anything gets between me and my family, I will walk away from it and I won't look back.
You've maintained your association with the military, well, loosely with your charity you run. Tell us about it and what you're hoping to accomplish with it.
So I am the Chief Executive Officer for Hire Heroes USA, which is a nonprofit organization that creates job opportunities for U.S. military veterans and their spouses through personal employment training and corporate engagement. And, you know, for me, when I transitioned out of the military, I got a taste for how difficult it was to communicate my skill set to a civilian employer. I was very fortunate in meeting a gentleman by the name of John Bardis, who had started Hire Heroes USA and recruited me to be involved with it and ultimately take over and run it. And it was very important for me because I had a hard time. It was a very difficult decision for me to leave the Marine Corps. You know, it was for my family, but there's not a day that goes by that I don't miss it. And I miss leading those men and women, and I miss being a part of it. This gives me an opportunity to continue to help, you know, the men and women that are like me, because it is not an easy transition, especially in this economy. It is really difficult. And I think sometimes people forget that there is no draft. You know, these men and women volunteered for service and then were told where they were going to go. They don't get to vote on whether we go to war in Afghanistan or Iraq or Syria or anywhere else that they can maybe go. They simply raise their right hands and say, hey, I'm gonna serve, period. And for them to come home and experience, you know, over 20%, near 30% for Iraq and Afghanistan veterans of unemployment is just wrong. You know, they are far more skilled. They have a lot more talent than that, and it's a really difficult transition for them, and that's where my organization comes in. You know, helping them communicate their skill set via resume, interview skills, helping them communicate with different employers who want to hire veterans and realize the benefits of having these amazing people on their teams. And also educating those employers. Hey, these are the skill sets that transfer. You know, this is what a logistician, an infantryman, an air traffic controller, these are the skills they bring to the table so that the civilian employers understand what they're dealing with when they get a military veteran in front of them.
Looking ahead, you've built your own team down here in Georgia, Warrior Legion, MMA. What do you hope to accomplish with this?
You know, initially it was just it was a means of teaching. You know, I taught martial arts in the Marine Corps for a small portion of time. The other instructor, George Lockhart, who happens to be one of the best nutritionists in MMA now, he's taught for years, and we miss doing that. So we started the gym really with the purpose of helping to teach people and really having a martial arts environment where values, morals, integrity, and honor were really a big part of it. And it's grown into more than that. You know, all the pro fighters in Atlanta, we've all come together and started training together. And it's been really special. You know, there's a lot of talent in this city that used to go elsewhere for their camps that has now decided, hey, you know, let's all train together. Let's all come together. And we've realized some really amazing growth.
Is this going to be your home base from here on out?
You know, I think so. I'll still travel around a little bit. I'll definitely still make my trips down to Albuquerque. But, you know, my kids are getting older. They're in school. You know, I'm taking them to school 3 or 4 days a week, and that's difficult. I can't spend 6 months out of the year across the country preparing for fights. I mean, it's just no way to live for me, because ultimately my #1 job is to be their father. And if I'm gone for 8 weeks at a time, you know, that's not good enough for me. I mean, that's what I avoided by getting out of the military. And if that's what I have to do in fighting, then I'm going to leave fighting. You know, ultimately, my true happiness is being with my kids and my wife, period. everything else I do is a means to that end, to provide for them and to be with them. And the fact that I can now train here and improve as much as I am and have elite level training has just been fantastic.
So you just have the 2 girls.
I do. I have 2 girls.
You still working on it anymore?
You know, I think...
You get a boy in there?
I don't think I can make a boy. I don't think I have it in me. You know, I think it's that Marine and fighter curse. So I think when my oldest is in school full time, I think me and my wife will probably start trying for the 3rd. And, you know, I'll have 3 little girls, and I'll be doing ponytails and playing Princess and the Dragon and watching Disney princess movies for the rest of my days.